People, Deluded, I'm back again. In relation to the recent news with Aouar coming to Arsenal, Aouar wanting to come to Arsenal, I don't want to speak about it after this vid, but I'm late to the party. A couple of you have been asking me to dissect his comments. Now, I do believe, and he had a good performance for France the other day. Obviously, he's on international duty. I do believe he's been talking to TF1 in relation to what I assume is Arsenal, his future, and probably his future ambitions. But apparently, he was adamant staying at Lyon this summer will prove to be the right decision. He was pressed on if he is disappointed about the transfer window closing and not leaving Lyon now. He'll never say honestly what he believes, you know, coming out and saying, yes, I'm disappointed not to join Arsenal. I don't want to stay at Lyon or join any other club. It's going to damn his relations, you know. He's very much a Lyon lad. He's come through the academy and he's there for a season, you know. He's got teammates. He has to be a bit diplomatic. But he said, no, honestly, this is my town, my club, so it is with immense pride that I play for this club. And above all, I have a lot of motivation to have a great season with my team. And again, that could be for many reasons. From a selfish point of view, you have a good season, you confirm your place in the Euros. You know, you get a move to, you know, Arsenal will come back for you. But the Juventus, the Barcelonas, the Madrids, all of these teams, if they want you and the situation with COVID and their finances cleared up, they'll go back with you. You know, if I'm him, you know, in the ideal world, I want to play well, I want to do what, because the France thing is there. You know, I'm thinking this is my last season, so I'm playing with freedom. I'm playing with the sense of that I really want to accomplish something before I F off and go elsewhere, being my hometown club. And that can give you the confidence, you know. There's no uncertainty over his future. It seems in the last couple of years he's been, and even this year, he's been open to staying at Lyon, but for want of better terms, his head can be turned and he can be aroused by joining other clubs. Like, I don't think Arsenal was his first choice. I think it was a thing, you put them on the table, he's going to the Barca's and the whatnot, but he would listen to Arsenal and be enticed by the project. I think the same was said for Ndombele. I think it can be said for Depay. He plays for Lille, but I think it could have, well, he doesn't play for Lille anymore, he plays for Arsenal, but that could have been said for Gabriel sort of thing, people. So I don't blame him, you know. In an ideal world, you make sure you can have, you want to leave, it being your hometown club, you want to leave on a good note, you know. They've had a terrible season. Can they finish in the Champions League spot? Can they do what Marseille have been doing in challenging PSG? You know, can they bring a cup home even? You know, can the hometown boy lift a cup and then F off to where he's going and whatnot, you know? So it's in his best interest to have a great season, help them get in the Champions League and do the rest and right the wrongs that he was part of last season, you know. They all had a terrible season. Have a good season and then leave on good terms, on better terms and whatnot. Also, you can't underrate stability, you know. I do think if he wants to improve, he needs to, obviously I'm going to say come to Arsenal, but it's not really logical, go to the better clubs and whatnot. I do think he's outgrown to a degree his situation at Lyon. Saying that, you know, he can play with more consistency, you know, there's something to be said in that. The big games he stands out, but over a course of a season there are inconsistencies. He can fix that, and he is needing to fix that before he goes off to the Madrids and these teams. And that was one thing that could help Arsenal, is that you've gone from Lyon, you know, Arsenal's a similar step. You spend a couple of years here defining yourself. You still have many years ahead of you. Then when you're in your peak prime, you go off elsewhere. And obviously that would have helped Arsenal because, again, you know, he's getting further and further in the French team. That just adds more and more zeros. That just makes more and more teams interested, ultimately making it harder for Arsenal to bring him through. Hopefully we can still do a thing, but who knows, people. So he's hardly going to tell the truth in that regards. And he was then asked, was it Arsenal or nothing else like we were told? He said, no, not necessarily. That tells you yes and no. That tells you Arsenal probably were the only one with concrete things, but I could have stayed. You know, there could have been other teams in my agency or my ear saying, we're not coming for you this year, we're coming for you next year. Sit on your hands at Lyon. There's always options. But he said, but it is true that at the end, it was basically that. So ultimately, I had to make a decision and I'm happy to stay here. And we'll never find out why it didn't bang. You know, Ulas, Arsenal messing around, Arsenal focusing on Partey, wage demands, commissions, anything from 5 to 15 million apparently his brother wanted. We will never know. It's happened. We will never know. And again, he's going to say I'm happy to stay. He was then asked on basically if Ulas, the president, convinced him. And again, he probably said stuff like, yeah, listen, you're a good player. You had a mediocre season last year and Arsenal were onto you. So imagine what happens if you have a great season for Lyon, a better season than last year. What sort of teams are going to be there? probably said stuff like, do you want to move during a... And I would say this if I was him. Do you want to move with it being an important season? You've got the Euros. Say you don't settle into the way of life in the Premier League. Go and ask, you know, Lacazette and all these people how tough the league is, you know. Do you want to leave right now with the Euros at hand and you're making progress in the French side? You know, new team, new formation, more pressure. Or do you want to stay where you're a bit stable, where you can just focus on your club, ultimately your country, and then the rest will take care of it. You can deal with your season. And I'd say that if I was Ulas, and I'd say, listen, for all the speculation, you know, you had a poor season last year by your own standards, and you've been linked with all of these clubs. So imagine if you have a big season, what's going to happen for you? You do the talking with your feet, all of it takes case. I'm more than happy to sell you, my brother. You know, 50, 60 million, I'm on you. I've showed you it with Lacazette. I've showed you it with City. I was going to show you it this year with Depay, and I'll show you it once upon a time soon enough with Kakare, who I believe suffering from COVID, get well soon, and Ryan Cherky. You know, in a couple of years, you let that 16, 17-year-old develop, you know, he'll become something special and things like that. You know, I have no problem selling you. I've been doing this, but the conditions have to be right. And obviously, the longer it goes on in the market, the more Arsenal are running against time. And he said, as well as others, I spoke at an enormous length with Junie every day. Well, in Junie, in brackets SD, every day. He shows his faith in me. It is a real pleasure for me to work with him and stay here for at least another season with Junie is a major source of pride. And he's dropped it there, like I've been saying, for another season. This will probably be his last year. So what I do hope Edu and them lot are doing is staying in constant dialogue with his camp, staying in constant dialogue with Ulas, trying to get this one confirmed, sort of thing. He was then asked on his main aim for the season with Lyon. He said, well, it's to get on the podium. He said, minimum, yes. I think that Lyon are one of the biggest teams in France, so obviously they should be as high as possible, and we are motivated to get back there. We have lost an enormous amount of points since the start, but we are working very hard to get back up. He was then asked about the Euros next year. He said, of course, as soon as you get here, your aim is to stay as long as possible. That is also the hardest thing. So, of course, I will have to work very hard in the international break, but also with my club in the league and the Coupe de France to achieve my aims. So yeah, you know, he has a good season. He does what he needs to do. It's as simple as that. Quickly on Martinelli, people, you know, I can't wait till this man's fit. You know, I don't think he plays the end of this year. I know he's recovering. He can't recovering well, but his fitness is paramount. When he's back, I want him to be back. I don't want him to get little niggling knocks. Because we've seen, you know, it's different, but we've seen with Jack Wilshere, you know, if he had that one proper operation when he was younger, would he have needed to have them little minor ones and then ultimately keep going down this route he's been, you know? So you're always cautious about injuries and long-term injuries and what they can do. And Martinelli was kind of shot down. He waited a while and it was happening very fast for him. You know, Ronaldinho and R9, Ronaldo Lima, speaking of him, you know, there's talk of being called up by Brazil. You know, it's all happening. And you know, you're riding high in April, shot down in May is the thing. But injuries are an occupational hazard of the game. You know, they're part and parcel of being a footballer. And we still know he's got potential. Why else would we improve his terms of his deal? He's spoken about his injury and whatnot. And I love hearing from our young man. He said, I'm very well. I'm regaining confidence and I can feel my knee is better. After an injury like this, you are kind of scared to force the knee again. But the past couple of weeks, it's been fine and soon I can start training with the ball. I think we have an excellent squad and along with Mikel's forward thinking and winning mentality, we can carry on doing well. We are playing well and training well. Everyone wants to win. We are all giving everything. I believe this season is very promising. We won trophies last season and I believe we can win this season again and also qualify for the Champions League, which is what you want to hear. He did speak about, you know, ever since he's been kind of been missing, we've seen, you know, the growing list of Brazilians. You know, it was previously David Luiz and whatnot. Now he's got the band's getting made, isn't it? We've got Gabriel and Willian coming this summer and he spoke about them. He said, I'm very happy. It's good to have players from your country that speak your language. I already knew David Luiz and now it's great to meet Willian and Gabby. I've only just met them, but I can already tell they are great guys. We are always laughing and it is a great environment to be in. They are playing very well and giving their best too. I think they can offer a lot I think they have a lot to offer to this club on and off the pitch, and it is true with that. You know, with Gabriel rising stature, there's more marketable opportunities. You know, Willian's very experienced. He can obviously help the young players off it. I'm always wary about the experience thing because you know, it's not like Willian's gonna be there, or these young players, or Willian himself, or anyone that's been using examples, constantly gonna have their arm around them. You know, up them everywhere they're going. You know, you don't do that teacher thing. You know, it doesn't work. But Willian, with whatever you say, you know, he's got a good pedigree. He is good to have for young players. It is good for a young man like Martinelli to be surrounded by his countrymen as well, both on and even more importantly off the field. Again, you want him to probably mix around with more of the younger boys, but at the same time, it's nice to know he's diverse. And, you know, it can be lonely. I mean, he does seem like a very quiet and reserved family man, but that's only so much you can do. You need people them around, and it's nice to know you got David Luiz, who is a good person and just happens to be from the same country. Willian also, and for me as well, you got Gabriel, because, you know, Willian and David Luiz, you can't imagine in the next 5 years they're going to be here. Admittedly, if Martinelli and Gabriel develop to the way I believe they can, Arsenal might not even have them, but you'd imagine you two are going to be teammates for a minute, and you're both similar ages, different but similar ages. You're both at a similar period in that the potential, obviously Gabriel's more experienced, but the potential's there, the ability's there, but you're sort of rough diamonds. There's bits of your games to edge out. You know, you're in the thinking, might not necessarily be there, but in the thinking, I'd assume, I'd imagine Gabriel and Martinelli have to be on the verge of Brazilian call-ups, or if not on the verge, they're in the thinking. You know, scouts of national level are reporting properly back to the manager and whatnot. But it's nice to see that from Martinelli and hear that. And, you know, when the quicker Martinelli returns, the better. Obviously, Aouar was offered his opinions on why the Arsenal move didn't happen. For that, though, I've offered all my opinions. I'm going to get out of it. People, please make sure you hit the like button. Help me rank higher in the YouTube algorithm. You don't know me. I'm trying to make this a full-time thing. I've taken the jump. I'm trying to make it happen. Please comment your own opinions. If you're watching this for the first time, make sure you've hit the subscription button, man, because you're not going to go anywhere else. Most importantly, please stay safe. We'll soon buck up again. People, DG, out.